What's up, guys? It is Carly here bringing you episode number 7 of my entire horror movie collection. Sorry it takes me forever to get these videos out. I'm just always busy or too lazy to make a video, but we're moving along here. We're still on the DVD section, and first up here we left off with Day of the Dead by, of course, George Romero. Day of the Dead is a movie that I think is really, really great. I really appreciate it. It's got good effects in it and things like that, but gore effects, that is. But for me, zombie movies aren't really my thing, so it's not one I go back to a whole lot. But, you know, if I had to make a list of my favorite zombie movies, this would definitely be on it. And, of course, this is actually signed by George Romero. I actually got to meet him because he was in my area probably about like 9 months before he ended up passing away. So I got really, really lucky there, and he wrote "Stay Scared, Carly" on it. So it's really cool that I got him to sign this. I am very happy for that. So Day of the Dead, great movie. After that, we have Diary of the Dead. I don't remember this movie a whole lot. I remember when I was watching it, the first time I was watching it late at night, my fire alarm went off, and it kind of, made me, lose kind of attention for the film when I went to put it back on. But I remember it not being too bad or anything like that for being, one of the later Dead movies. It's, I know it's like a found footage type of take on these zombie movies, but, I didn't overly care for it, but at the same time, it wasn't too bad. Then, moving right along, we have Survival of the Dead, which is honestly just plain awful, but it's got a cool lenticular cover here. But, yeah, not really a good movie at all, especially for someone like me who, like I said, I don't really care for zombie movies all that much. If it's a bad zombie movie, then I'm really not going to be into it. I don't really remember this one a whole lot either, but it's definitely one that I probably won't go back to anytime soon. But, of course, I had to complete the Dead collection here. After that, we have a 4-film favorites collection pack here of the first 4 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Yes, I picked this up back when I first started collecting because I wasn't overly familiar with the Nightmare on Elm Street films, to be honest. It wasn't one that I grew up with, like Jason and Michael. Like, I watched all the Halloweens and all the Friday the 13th, but Nightmare on Elm Street really wasn't a film series I was too familiar with, mainly because my Mom thought it was kind of gross and didn't really want me watching it, so had to pick this up. And, I gotta say, the part 1, not really one of my favorite movies. I know it's kind of a sin to say that, but it actually kind of goes down for me every time I watch it. I'm just not a huge fan of it. Like, I think the acting is kind of bad, and some of the stuff in it is just plain cheesy. I do really like part 2 for some reason. That's probably like my favorite one in the entire franchise, if I'm being honest. I don't know why, but it just has a very 80s horror feel to it that I really enjoy. And then part 3, I know I remember liking it quite a bit, but it's been a while since I've revisited it, but I know it's a very good, solid film. Then part 4, I think I liked it too, but I think it was a little bit cheesy for my liking as well. To be honest, all the Nightmare on Elm Street films kind of run together in my head once you get into the sequels, so it's kind of hard for me to completely remember, especially since I don't really run back and rewatch these ones as I do with like Friday the 13th and Halloween, so it's kind of hard for me to say which ones are my favorites and things like that, but, it's not a bad franchise, just not my favorite. Then to continue on with that, we have A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. This is the one where the child with the, baby inside her or whatever. And I think I enjoyed this one maybe a little more than Part 4. Like I said, this one, Part 4 and the last one, kind of all, like, I get them all confused in my head for some reason. But I think I enjoyed this one. It's where Freddy gets kind of more comical and things like that, but I thought it was a kind of a cool plot idea. And then, of course, we have Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. People say this is the worst one in the franchise and things like that, but because it's so goofy and out there, I kind of find it enjoyable, honestly. I just think it's good for entertainment purposes alone if you don't think of it as a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but, you know, with that being said, it's definitely bad, especially to end the original franchise with, but I don't know, I found it to be pretty entertaining, but like I said, I don't really go back to these a whole lot. I wish I could have collected them all in these snapper cases, because that would have been kind of cool to have on the shelf, but either way. Then after that, we have Wes Craven's New Nightmare. You know, of course, it's kind of revamped the whole Freddy thing, and it's not necessarily a Nightmare on Elm Street movie because it's supposed to be taking place in the real world. When I first saw this, I really enjoyed it. Thought it was just such a neat idea for a film to try to make it seem like the actual actors are being haunted by this fictional character, but upon rewatch, I find it to be very just slow and kind of boring. Obviously, the kid in it's really annoying. It's just very much dated, doesn't really hold up, but I remember really liking it when I first watched it, so it's kind of a shame that I feel that way, but, you know, for first time watch, I feel like people would appreciate just the original plot idea behind this. Then lastly, for the Nightmare on Elm Street films, we have the remake here. Now, when I first saw this, I saw it in theaters back in, when did this come out, like 2009 or something like that? 2010, I guess. So I would have been like 13 or so, and I think I had definitely seen the original movie, but it had been a long time, and I remember really enjoying this remake. Now, upon rewatch, it's definitely not that great. The main character is pretty bland, and the effects in it aren't that solid, and of course, you have a different guy playing Freddy than Robert Englund, so it's really hard to kind of replace him because he's not just a guy in a mask like, you know, like Michael Myers or something. He's actually like a character in himself, so he's, you know, kind of hard to replace, but I did really enjoy this when I first saw it in theaters. As a matter of fact, I think out of the, you know, 3 major remakes, with that being Friday the 13th, Halloween, and this one, I think this was actually my favorite back in the day, but my opinions have definitely changed since then. It's not that great, but I still don't think it's totally awful either, like some people think. After that, we have Not Quite Hollywood. This is the wild, untold story of Ozploitation, obviously focusing on Australian exploitation type of movies, and JP gave me this, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I really would be interested in something like this, but I thought it was enjoyable, especially when they do talk about the, you know, horror movies in it, but when they talk about the other movies too, it's pretty cool. You know, they talk about movies such as Patrick and things, and I think, what's it called, Road Games with like Jamie Lee Curtis, and I always find that really interesting, but, you know, not my favorite topic in the world because it is talking about movies that are non-horror, but at the same time, I did enjoy it. It did keep my attention. Then we have Open Water. I believe JP gave me this one too last year for Christmas or something like that, and it was a movie I had never seen before and didn't really know anything about it. I thought it was just another shark movie, but, you know, after watching it, I gotta say, it was a really good movie. I know some people think it's kind of boring because obviously it's just 2 characters out in the middle of the water for the entirety of the movie, basically, but I found it to be just very depressing, especially because it's kind of based off of true events, and it doesn't have a happy ending at all, and I was actually I think I was also in like a depressed mood when I was watching it, so after it was over, I was super depressed, and it's not one that I really want to go back to anytime soon, but with that being said, it was definitely a good movie. I think I rated it like an 8 out of 10. Then we have The Orphanage. This is Guillermo del Toro's movie, and I gotta say, I'm just not a big fan of his films. They're not, I don't know, some people think he's like a horror master and things like that, but it seems like all his movies just have little chunks of horror elements in them, but they're more like dramas or mysteries, things like that, and this is more of like a ghost film. You know, it's more horror than anything, I guess, and I didn't really care for it all that much, though. I think it was just kind of boring, in my opinion. I know some people really appreciate this movie and appreciate this dude's work, but for me, it's just not, his style just isn't really for me, but, you know, it was okay, just kind of bored me a little bit. Then after that, we have P2. This is a movie set on Christmas Eve, and, you know, obviously it's set in like a parking garage, but I feel like they actually get a really good Christmas vibe in this movie, surprisingly. It doesn't seem like one where you would really, sense that it's Christmas time, but they actually capture that pretty well in this film, and you wouldn't expect it for a movie like this, and I really, really enjoyed this. This is definitely one that I would rewatch. I've only seen it once, but it's definitely one that I would probably pop in around Christmas time whenever I get the chance, because it is a very solid film. Then I just brought this up, and that is Patrick. This is obviously the movie where dude is kind of in this just state, like coma, I guess, state. His eyes are open though, and he has like no functions, and then this nurse is kind of taking care of him, and yeah, it's a pretty interesting movie. JP told me he found it to be kind of boring, but I actually was pretty into it the whole way through, and definitely interesting. Probably not one that I would go back to a whole lot, but I would probably revisit it sometime in the future because I did find it to be interesting. I know I found this at a pawn shop, which was pretty cool, and it's not something I would have, you know, usually picked up, but JP said, like, that's probably not something you would always find at a pawn shop, so did grab it and was not disappointed. Pretty cool film. Then we have this double pack here with The People Under the Stairs and Shocker. I enjoyed both of these movies, to be honest. Definitely People Under the Stairs is obviously the more solid one out of these two. But with that being said, I actually found Shocker to be a pretty fun and entertaining movie. The only issue with it is that it is pretty freaking long. It's almost 2 hours long, and for a movie like a cheesy, just fun movie, I feel like you don't need your movie to be that long. But with that being said, I do enjoy both these movies. People Under the Stairs I absolutely loved, and Shocker probably not one that I would really rewatch again because it is so long, but if it was shorter, it would have more rewatchability for me. After that, we have Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. I've actually only watched this movie one time in my life, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's definitely one that you would want to pop in around Halloween time. I know on, I think AMC on TV, I remember when I was younger, this is one that they would always replay on there, and I always thought the title just kind of sounded uninteresting. Like, I didn't understand what that meant. Like, Pet Sematary, like, is it just a movie about a bunch of like dead pets and things like that? So that's kind of why I never really caught it when it was on TV. I would see bits and pieces of it, but never sat all the way through it. And then back in 2015, I finally gave it a watch, and I was not disappointed. Definitely a great movie. Definitely pretty depressing though, so not something I would put on for fun or anything like that, but something I would definitely probably pop in around Halloween time. Then, of course, we have Pet Sematary Part 2, which takes a totally different route, and it's actually a really fun movie. It's got some comedic moments going on in it, and it's just a lot of fun, honestly. This is one that I would rewatch probably more than the first one, just because it's not nearly as depressing of a movie. It does have some like sad moments in it, but for the most part it's a lot more lighthearted, and of course this is directed by the same person who did the first one, oddly enough, so you know, it's kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre effect, where the first one is really dark and there's no comedy at all, and then the second one is just a blast. So yeah, Pet Sematary 2, I really enjoy it. It's definitely kind of cheesy, but it's definitely one that I do go back to. Then we have Phantom of the Opera. This is the one that Robert Englund plays the Phantom character in. There are so many versions of Phantom of the Opera, and this is the only one that I've actually ever seen. And surprisingly, I enjoyed this. I thought it was a pretty solid movie. I think Robert Englund's performance is really good in this. I think this came out around the time that Nightmare on Elm Street was popular still, so that's pretty interesting. I don't remember it a whole lot though, but I just do remember being surprised that I liked it because it did not seem like a film that I would really like. So yeah, definitely one I would have to give a rewatch to really give full opinions on, but I do remember enjoying it. Next up, guys, we have a movie called Phantoms. Yes, a classic. If you listen to the Woodsboro Bros podcast, you would know that me and JP guested on that show, and this was Andrew's pick, and I gotta say, I really did not care for this movie at all. I mean, the beginning portion's alright, but other than that, it's just kind of boring, really. It's just a very boring movie. Not a lot happens, and then when stuff does happen, it takes a more sci-fi-ish route, and I do not care for sci-fi movies whatsoever, so yeah, this is definitely not one that I would probably ever rewatch. It actually took me 2 watches to grasp it, because the first time I wasn't paying close enough attention, and you know, no hate on Andrew or anything like that, this just is not a floating head movie that I really enjoyed. Then we have Phenomena, which, speaking of the Woodsboro Bros, this is one that Austin gave me out of the kindness of his heart, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I've said multiple times I do not care for Dario Argento's giallos and things like that, and I guess this one is technically considered one as well. I didn't really think of it as one, but I really enjoyed this. Definitely my second favorite Argento film, next to Suspiria, of course. This is a long movie, but it really does not feel that long at all. It was a very easy watch for me, so definitely one I would go back to, and the score in it is freaking amazing. After that, we have Pieces. I don't remember this one a whole lot. I think I was not paying enough attention to it, sadly, and I know a lot of people really enjoy this movie, so it's one that I definitely want to rewatch, because you know, the idea behind it is just pretty, you know, absurd and cool and things like that, so it's definitely a movie that I do want to give a rewatch to, because I think I just popped it in one night for the first time, but then I was doing some other stuff and just kind of had it on as background noise, so definitely one that I have to give another chance to. After that, we have Predator. You know, JP gave me this one as well. He actually sent it to me because he bought me a bunch of movies one day and just had them sent in the mail randomly. And, you know, it's not a bad movie or anything like that. Definitely not my taste. It's definitely more, you know, action, sci-fi, adventure type of film. Obviously, it's got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and I know I liked it more than I thought I was going to, I will say that, but these just really aren't my taste. I'm more of a, you know, full-on horror / thriller suspense type of person, and this just isn't really for me, but not a bad movie whatsoever. And then we have Psycho 2, 3, and 4. I have had this triple pack forever. I remember my mom picked it up one day, and because she wanted to show me the Psycho sequels. I don't think she had ever seen them before as well, so we ended up watching them together, and I loved all 3 of them. Part 4, definitely not my favorite out of them, definitely not the one that I would go back to a whole lot, but everyone probably knows by now Part 3 is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I just think it is so fun and such a nice love letter to the original film, and I love Part 2 as well. I used to watch Part 2 and 3 back-to-back constantly in middle school. That was kind of like a phase I went through for some reason. I just loved the Psycho sequels so much, and yeah, what can I say? This is a triple pack that has been well loved. Definitely one of the most watched things probably in my collection. And then finally for this part, guys, we have Red Christmas. Red Christmas was a pretty solid slasher film that came out in 2017, set on Christmas time. Definitely not my favorite, you know, I liked Better Watch Out better as the Christmas movie of that year, but it had some very cool color schemes going on, and it almost reminded me of like the Black Christmas remake. The only thing is this is an Australian film, so it didn't have a huge Christmas vibe to it because, you know, it's hot in Australia and it literally just looks like summertime outside, so that's like one thing that kind of sucks with these movies that are set in those types of settings, is they don't really get any snow or anything like that. But other than that, you know, it was a pretty decent slasher film, especially because it seemed like there weren't a whole lot of slashers or things like that coming out in 2017, so I thought this was decent. It's definitely something I would give a rewatch to when the holidays come back up. So, yeah, thank you guys once again for joining me for episode number 7 of my entire horror movie collection. I promise I will get this whole thing done. It will probably take me forever, but one day it'll be all done. It's funny because like I keep getting more stuff for the collection, so it's already expanded a whole bunch, and this will probably be super out of date by the time I'm done with it all. But either way, I'll get it finished, and then I'll probably do an updated version in a few years or so. So thank you guys once again for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.